Hey old school and retro wrestling fans, I've returned to WCW in the year 1992 for my review of the year and my own personal top 10 rankings of the year. So this is going to be me talking about World Championship Wrestling on TBS from February the 1st, 1992. JR Jim Ross hosts the show from ringside. And at the top of the hour, Tony Schiavone runs down the latest WCW Top 10 rankings for the weekend.
The number 10 spot for Vero Beach, Florida, the Tailor-Made Man. In at number 9, the Wild Man from the Sudan at 460 pounds, Abdullah the Butcher. Big Van Vader checks in at number 8. In at number 7, Cactus Jack. The Natural Dustin Rhodes one step ahead at number 6. At number 5, returning from the injury, the All-American Ron Simmons. The number 4 ranked contender from Charlotte, North Carolina, the Dragon, Ricky Steamboat, the World Television Champion. Stunning Steve Austin ranks number 3 this week. The number 2 ranked contender, the Stinger from Venice Beach. The number 1 ranked contender, the U.S. Heavyweight Champion, Ravishing Rick Rude. And of course, the WCW Heavyweight Champion of the World, the Total Package Lex Luger. And that's a look at this week's Top 10 rankings.
Stay tuned to find out what my top 10 will be later on. We open with members of the Dangerous Alliance and the current WCW Tag Champions Arn Anderson and Beautiful Bobby Eaton taking on the team of Flying Brian Pillman and Mike Graham. Yes, this guy.
That was stupid. It ain't gonna draw a dime. Not a dime.
Benoit, Guerrero, Perry Saturn, the blonde-haired guy that was a skateboard guy for a while that looked kind of good but never drew a dime.
Saved our company $2.5 million a year because they never drew a dime. Not a dime. Not a dime. Those guys never drew a dime. I don't know what they were doing in the wrestling business.
Yes, pot, kettle, black, Mr. Graham. Anyway, this is a solid enough tag match to open up the hour with the heels on top for Mike Graham and Arn exchanging in some good chain technical wrestling. We get a nice old-fashioned hit crisscross the ring, and Graham gets the edge with a hip toss and then goes to work on Arn's legs. Arn attempts to fire back as the fast pace continues, and we get another nice old school move, the abdominal stretch. So fair play to both guys for doing that well. And the chain wrestling continues as Graham works over Arn's wrist, taking out that, negating the threat of like the DDT or Spinebuster. We get, oh my god, a second crisscross, which is good to see. Arn's in the days, and there's a blind tag of all things. Flying Brian flies in with a crossbody, gets 2. Arn questions the tag. Bobby's quickly in, and he takes 2 head scissors from the number 1 contender for the light heavyweight title. Also a drop kick and an arm bar, or arm drag in arm bar. Pull these sweating buckets at ringside. I really like this spot as Bobby is used as a ladder by Pillman, and Flying Brian climbs him, leaps off him and jumps onto Arn onto the knee, and there's some kidmanship whether Arn's actually faking the knee or not. Later on they double team Graham in the corner, but Graham attempts to come back but takes a thumb in the eye. Arn with a knee drop, getting a bit cocky, only a 2 as we see Heyman on the telephone, and Brian with his leopard skin tights thinks he's back in, but the referee doesn't see the tag. The heels double T Graham, but we end up with all 4 men in the ring. The pace quickens again. Pillman with 2 really sweet looking drop kicks. Graham once again going for the knee, has a figure 4 leg lock on Arn, but the ref is putting Pillman out. We get the Alabama Jam leg drop from Beautiful Bobby. The ref back in position. 1, 2, 3. The heels steal the win, and they're getting ready for the Steiner brothers. That's Super Brawl. That's the Dangerous Alliance. Arn and Bobby, as we see some of the highlights again. And you know what? Not an amazing match, but I'm going to give it 2 stars. Solid enough for the opening match of the show. Now let's refresh ourselves with some classic and cheesy 1990s commercials.
What is real?
Is that for real?
That can't be real.
What about her?
Is she for real?
Well, what is real?
This is real.
Skittles.
Tart and tangy. Wild berry. Tropical. Real fun. Real good. With real fruit juices.
Skittles. Bite-sized candies.
Rainbow.
Be afraid. Be very afraid. One life-sucking Metroid survived the first Metroid adventure, and it's multiplying rapidly. You must help Samus save the universe again in Metroid 2. So we're giving you more power and mightier weapons to search a bigger world where hundreds of strange enemy life forms lurk. Destroy or be destroyed.
Metroid 2, The Return of Samus, only on Game Boy.
The future is in your hands.
Next up, Eric Bischoff in the WCW magazine previews the Super Brawl 2 pay-per-view, and Lex Luger gives one of the most lifeless 1980-style promos you're ever likely to see. But first of all, Sting, his challenger, at least musters up a bit more energy.
Tony Schiavone, Jesse Ventura, lots of good stuff happened in World Championship Wrestling. Tony says, Sting, look up at the big screen. Luger's got an announcement to make, and he says, Sting, I have the choice because I'm world champion to stay at home, work out, get into the best shape of my life. You're going to be on the road wrestling every single day leading up to that match. Sounds like you want to try and wear me out, doesn't it? You ought to know by now you can't wear me out. Thing that stands out most in my mind is you saying, Sting, you're just going to be another chapter in my book that says I will go on as the greatest champion, the greatest athlete of all time. Listen to me. Look into my eyes right now. I'm telling you something! I've proved myself time and time again, and I'm going to continue to do it, even when I face you, pal.
You know, a lot's been said about the seclusion of Lex Luger as of late. I call it the champion's prerogative. I call it preparation. Both mentally, I'm getting in tune for the biggest event, the biggest match of my career, like I never have before. It's called concentration. It's called focusing on one thing and one thing only, and that's victory. Physically, I am in the finest condition of my life. My training regimen has never been more severe. I am totally and absolutely prepared like I never have before in my lifetime for this match coming up. A lot's been said about friendship. Friendship is put aside when you step through those ropes and the bell sounds. It's all business, and Lex Luger takes care of business. That's why I'm the world's heavyweight champion. That's why, when it's all written, the storybook career of a total package Lex Luger, I just don't want to be the greatest wrestling champion of all time. I want to be known as the greatest athlete of all time. So when it's all said and done, Sting, after that match, you will just be another chapter in the storybook career of the greatest wrestler and the greatest athlete who ever lived, the total package, Lex Luger.
Did anyone tell Lex then he's actually a heel? Oh, and by the way, Lex, you haven't been friends with Sting for like the best part of like 6 months, so I don't know what the hell you're talking about putting friendship out the window, because you don't have to, unless you're slipping into some sort of kayfabe type thing, but or non-kayfabe, I guess it would be. And don't worry, no one's going to mistake you for the greatest world heavyweight champion ever. Anyway, so that's coming up at Super Brawl. Former best friends, technically best friends off screen still, Luger and Sting for the WCW World title. And hopefully the match lives up to a bit more than those lackluster promos. But I will be covering Super Brawl 2 later in the month. Up next, led to the ring by Harley Race, the odd couple of the bodyguard Mr. Hughes, and hey, it's Vinnie Vegas, Kevin Nash in his latest cheesy ass gimmick. Actually, by his standards, Vinnie is one of the better ones. They face the jobber light heavyweight pairing of Jumpin' Joey Maggs and poor Brad Armstrong, who the last we saw, he was ridiculously over-the-top superhero Arachnoman, which you at the very least remember, but it was so shit. But now he's been downgraded, at least to himself, but he's been given the jobber spot for this one, and it's a pretty standard matchup. Armstrong takes a real pounding from the heels. Who's is probably the standout of the match. Vinnie gets his big moves in, including a good-looking gut-wrench suplex on Armstrong, after which Vinnie rolls the dice, because of course he does. Armstrong almost gets something out of Who's when he hits a sunset flip, which is ultimately blocked, and I just loved Bodyguard posing and showing off because he outsmarted Armstrong by giving him a fist to the face. What a pro Mr. Who's is. Gotta love that guy. Armstrong survives Who's elbow drop off the ropes. He then dodges him off the ropes as Who straddles himself, hitting his knackers on the middle cable like only Who's can. Armstrong makes the hot tag to Joey Maggs, but Maggs doesn't get much in before a power slam from Who's. A well-timed tag to Vinnie Baby. And Vegas shakes those dice one more time. Here we go. Bada, 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 bada. Come on, Vinny, do it. He hits the Snake Eyes finisher for the 1-2-3. The heels win. And after the match, Vinny gives us some Vegas poker terms from the expert. But you know what? The best thing about Vinnie Vegas has to be his pretty cool rock and roll theme tune. I'll give that match 1.5 stars. Now, coming up next, WCW never really quite had its finger on the pulse of what was cool in the early 90s. Certainly it wasn't Vinnie, old baby. But I tell you something that was cool is, well, it's not Marcus Bagwell who's coming up next in the ring, but it was Wayne's World. Let's have a bit of Wayne's World.
Woman, you think you're gonna hurl?
I say hurl. If you blow chunks and she comes back, she's yours.
Okay.
Wayne's World, rated PG-13. Starts Friday, February 14th.
Next up, a guy who was really never going to draw a dime, at least not at this point in his career, Marcus Alexander Bagwell, in a standard jobber win against Nikita Koloff's missing cousin, Mark Kyle. There you see the fisherman suplex gets Bagwell the win. Post-match, the rookie is interrupted by the tailor-made man who brags about going to London for the latest fashion. Yes, boys and girls, Terry's suit was tailor-made in London. Get it? But Bagwell's such a square and jobber, he actually lets Taylor get away with this and ends up leaving the interview position, allowing Taylor to have his own way. This sets up a match between the two of them at Super Bowl, which I doubt sent many rumbles throughout the wrestling business.
I got my Learjet waiting at the airport, and I can't be standing around here waiting for a rookie. I'm heading out to London to get some clothes made, because I am the best dressed man. I am the best looking man. And when I get in that ring, you're going to see how good the tailor-made man really is. So no matter what any of you say, I am going to the top of WCW because I am tailor-made.
After more hype for Super Bowl 2, Sting barely breaks a sweat with another standard victory over jobber Mike Samples as he beats him with the Stinger Splash in the corner and the Scorpion Deathlock for the standard submission win, 28 days out from his big world title match against arch rival and former best friend, the Total Package Lex Luger. Up next, a grudge match for the WCW World Television Champion as Dangerous Alliance member Stunning Steve Austin, number 3 in the top 10 rankings, and the reigning TV champion defends against the more experienced Big Barry Windham from Sweetwater, Texas. This feud has been brewing since October, where Austin was one of the guys who put Windham on the shelf with a broken hand. Well, the score was sort of even the week before as Windham took out the leg of Austin, so coming into this match both guys had injured body parts, and that was sort of the story of the match. Windham using his experience to get on top of Austin's leg, but Austin coming back by shooting Windham on the outside. He then dropped him across the guardrail, then went to work on his hand. At one point he tried to rip the tape off the hand, but Windham turned the tables and then went after Austin's leg, ripping at the tape once again. He took out the leg back in the ring, Austin selling and begging for mercy, Windham dropping Austin's knee across his own, step over, and he goes for the figure 4 leg lock, old school, which he gets in tight. Austin just begging for mercy as the referee checks in. He's in danger of being pinned at one point. Windham using his experience, grabbing hold of the bottom and then the middle and then even the top rope, and I just love Paulie screaming to the other Dangerous Alliance members on the phone. Things really getting intense. Paulie grabs the ref and then comes in the ring threatening to use the telephone. Windham fights him off, but in the end it's too much and the ref calls for the bell for the heated DQ. The other Dangerous Alliance members come in for an attack after the match. They triple team him before the Steiner brothers make the save. So overall, I'm going to give this match 2.5 stars. It could have been even better if it had been given longer, but a really solid, heated match, and the two would have better matches in the future. And in the main event, US Heavyweight Champion Ravishing Rick Rude, along with Paulie Dangerously, squares off against the Z-Man in a non-title match. Here's Rude.
Cut the music! What I'd like to have right now is for all you stink breath heartland heifers, keep the noise down while I take my robe off and show the ladies what a real sexy man is supposed to look like. Hit the music.
Well, sexy's not going to get it when he meets the dragon. It's not going to be a beauty contest. It's not going to be the dating game. It's going to be wrestling, WCW style. If you heard Steamboat's comments last week, obviously he was incensed.
The Z-Man is carried to one of his better singles outings by the US Heavyweight Champion in a very solid main event. A good example of how to do a bigger power man against a smaller underdog type wrestler. The match could have done with a bit more drama and high spots, but overall a solid main event as Rude plays head games early in the match, first of all offering his hand for a handshake and then a clean break. Seaman comes flying back, nice cross body for a 2 count. His drop kicks look a little off the mark, but he continues with an arm drag into an arm bar, focusing on Rude's arm to neglect that power threat. Rude powers back with a side headlock takedown. Then you get a good old-fashioned test of strength, centre of the ring, which of course Rude wins with a good old-fashioned hair pull, takes him down. Paulie has the crazy eyes at ringside. Z-Man comes back, works over the arm with an armbar snap. but Rude once again using some heelish tactics with a rape to the back. A nice back suplex. He of course finds time to pose, as always. Glorious Rick Rude as he continues to draw heat. Then a nice looking gut buster on the Z-Man as he barks into the camera at Ricky Steamboat, his opponent at Super Bowl. More posing from Rude, of course. More barking into the camera at Steamboat. A short arm clothesline. He builds a string of moves at this point with a big body slam. Z-Man then, like the jabroni he is, actually goes after Rude's manager, Paulie Dangerously, who can't keep his mouth shut. But of course, Z-Man is ambushed on the outside by Rude, dumped across the guardrail. He then gets a chance with a sunset flip, but even though he gets Rude over and gets a 2, his strength is weakening. Rude takes a chance up top, but is caught with a right hand by Z-Man, who goes for broke once again, but he's caught in a bear hug, then dumped across the top cable with a stun gun, and then he goes for the gold. The Rude Awakening, as always, his finisher, puts away the Z-Man. A valiant effort by Z-Man. As I said, one of his better matches. Rude wins the main event, building momentum for his big match against Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. US title on the line at Super Bowl 2 in 28 days. And my own personal top 10 rankings up to this point. At number 10 from Sweetwater, Texas, Big Barry Windham. He just edges into the 10, 11 points so far for the year. Number 9, US Heavyweight Champion Ravishing Rick Rude. He has 14 points and of course has a date with Destiny, defending his title against Ricky Steamboat at Super Bowl. Up to number 8, Flying Brian Pillman, the challenger for the light heavyweight title at Super Bowl, 14 points. The All-American Ron Simmons, number 7 this week, continues his solid start to the year. And the Bodyguard, Mr. Who's, is my number 6 for the week, one of the surprise packages of the year so far, into the top 5. And Ricky the Dragon Steamboat is at number 5, and followed by his former tag title partner, the Natural, Dustin Rhodes. He's this week's number 4, but it's all Dangerous Alliance at the top of the pack. The top 3 all come from that heel group. The TV champion, Stunning Steve Austin, top 3, 25 points. Beautiful Bobby Eaton, also number 2 on 25, and the Enforcer, Arn Anderson, is top of the tree on alphabetical order, 25 points for him as well. An impressive start of the year for the Dangerous Alliance, and some massive matches for them coming up at Super Bowl. Will their dominance continue? Only time will tell. See you next week for some more retro WCW action.